Welcome back, trainers, and with one of the most anticipated community days coming up very soon, and in some parts of the world it's actually starting fairly soon, we're going to want to talk about a few things that you may want to do to get ready. Now, let's go ahead and jump right into this. First things first, if you currently have these Beldums, I recommend that you trade them right now with your friends, not your high IVs. If you have horrible ones, trade Beldum for Beldum until you get luckies with the bad ones that you have, right? Don't trade off your good ones. You're going to want to keep those, so you could possibly get a lucky to save yourself Stardust when you're powering up these Meteor Mash Metagross, because, well, if you're wondering, is Metagross with Meteor Mash even going to be good? Let me tell you this, folks. Oh yeah, it's going to be so good. It's kind of like a frenzy plant in ways of the cooldown. It's going to be very fast, and it's going to be very strong. Now, we're getting mixed reports. We see some YouTubers who are getting inside information from Niantic saying it's going to be 90, and then other things saying it's going to be 100. Now, of course, you'd go with the one that says 90, but I don't know what's going on. We'll just wait to see what happens with that. Nonetheless, it's going to be very strong, 90 or 100. Doesn't matter. You're going to want as many as you can. Now, when I say as many as you can get, I don't mean like 10, 20. Probably like 5. If you're some high baller, maybe 6. I'm going to probably go for 4 or 5 of them. And if you're thinking also, well, if I make that many, then I'll never be able to power one up. Yeah, depends on how much you grind and how fast you can get those candies back. You have to think about that for sure. But it is highly recommended to get as many as you can and then just slowly power them up over time. Unless you're going to some sort of competition where it requires you to use a Metagross with Meteor Mash for a prize of $1,000 on the line, then there's really nothing to worry about and you don't need to max one out immediately. Unless you're me, right? Which I'm going to do. So stay tuned and make sure you got the notifications on, because that video will be coming. Guarantee you that. All right, so make sure you do that. Trade them off. Get those luckies before the event starts. And even if you can't get those luckies and trade before the event, there's no need to worry. Because if you're thinking, oh, well, what do you mean? I have to grind the whole 3 hours. Absolutely. You can take a few minutes to stop and do a few trades. I think you'll be okay. But something that Niantic implemented, which is super fantastic, evolve a Metatang up to 1 hour after the event to obtain Metagross that knows the steel type move, Meteor Mash. So there you go. You have 1 hour after the 3 hour period to evolve. There's not going to be shinies all over the place. I mean, you can find one maybe if you're very, very lucky, but it's not going to be like Beldums everywhere. It's just going to be an hour period for you to evolve your Metatangs to get Meteor Mash, which is nice. So people can focus on their grind for the 3 hours, and then after that, they can relax, do some trades, chit-chat, and evolve their Metatangs, whatever they have to do, right? So it should be great. Another tip is, if you're thinking, well, if I can never find a shiny with good IVs, I'm just going to trade them all. Yeah, that is an option, and I say go for it. But at the same time, think about this. It's a shiny, so it's counting as your special trade. You're not going to be able to trade a bunch, just one, folks. So make sure there's nothing really you can do. Maybe do like 2 trades before you trade it, and then possibly you might get that lucky on your 3rd one, fingers crossed. But that's no guarantee, so don't take that as fact, okay? Just playing around. All right, so there is that possibility. You could trade one to get a lucky shiny with good IVs. Otherwise, you're just going to simply have to get lucky, or maybe it's going to be snowing or windy in your area, and you're going to have weather boosted. Not going to happen for us. So that option's out the window. Well, hopefully it'll be windy. If it's snowing, then yikes. Okay, next up is going to be your items. Make sure you have plenty of Ultra Balls. Great Balls work too, I suppose. Pokeballs, if you're going to be using your Go Plus, I use my Go Plus. I check every single Beldum before I push the button, and then if it is locked onto the one I just checked, then I'll push it if it's not shiny. I don't actually catch every single Community Day Pokemon that is there. Obviously, if it's shiny, then I'll go for it. Make sure you have some Pineapple Berries as well. I don't recommend you use your silver Pineapple Berries. I mean, you can if, say, somebody found 100 shiny or something. Some crazy coincidence, or I wouldn't call it coincidence, but just luck. And you know exactly where it's at. They told you, it's like, oh, it's right there in the corner. It's that one. And you're like, oh, shoot. You should just use your golden raspberry, right? Do you really want just 3 more berries for a lesser catch rate? Because the golden raspberry actually has a higher catch rate than the silver pineapple berry. So keep that in mind. The silver pineapple berry is giving you a bit of a higher catch rate plus the candy bonus. It's just like a regular raspberry and a pineapple mixed together. The golden raz is a better chance for you to catch it. So use your golden razes if you have a certainty that that is a good IV one or whatever the situation is on. Now let's go over this one more time about how many you should power up. It depends on how many candies you have. If you want to max one out immediately, go for it. But like I said, I highly recommend that you evolve, I don't know, like 4 or 3 if you have enough candies. You're also going to be collecting a lot of candies during this community day. And I know I said I personally don't catch everything, even, you know, the non-shinies. But you may want to go for every single Beldum you can see and pineapple them, because that's going to maximize your candies in the best way possible. So that is another tip for you. Don't listen to what I'm going to do. You do that, okay? You catch every Beldum, shiny or not, and you use the pineapple berries on the non-shinies. If you find a shiny, I recommend you use your golden raz to just make sure it doesn't run. If you want to use a regular raz, it's up to you. Okay, next tip is going to be eggs. You're going to be hatching these 4 times faster. So make sure you do not open gifts to get those 7-kilometer eggs. You don't want those things right now. Trust me. You want 10Ks only. I mean, maybe even 5Ks. You can hatch Gen 4 Pokemon out of them. The starters, you might get a 100 good IV one. And if you don't get a great one, you go ahead and trade it. Possibly get yourself a lucky, which I highly recommend you do with all the Gen 4 Pokemon. Not because they're bad or anything, but it's just going to simply save you Stardust. And we have trading now. So just make sure you trade those off. Riolu is going to be coming out of those 10Ks, which is going to be evolving into the Lucario. Well, is it worth it? Is it worth powering up? I know it's about, you know, Metagross Community Day. It depends. It is a Lucario. If you have a lot of resources, have fun with it, like I usually say. But there's going to be other things that are going to outperform it. So you may just want to evolve it and then, you know, just have it, right? It's a really cool looking Pokemon. Really neat design. I really like Lucario personally. So hopefully I can hatch a Riolu tomorrow and get one of those. Okay, next tip is you do not want to stay still. You continuously want to keep moving and tapping on as many of these Beldums as you possibly can to find yourself a shiny and or just catch everything around you. Depends on where you live. Personally, for me, I don't live in a place where I can just go and I could walk, you know, I could walk downtown. I could walk around the mall. But, you know, I have my own grind. We're not going to get into that. But you basically just want to keep moving and tap on as many as you can. Know your area. You can go to an unknown place to play, but make sure you're hanging out with people that know the area and can show you where the cluster spawns are. And that's another thing. You want to remember where your good cluster spawns are. Hit those up. And if you're worried about the distance between each one, yeah, make sure they're not too spaced out, because that is time taken away. Because when you're moving too fast, say if you're in a car with a bunch of people and you're driving to each location and then getting out and walking, and yeah, you're thinking about that time between each distance, don't worry about it too much. If it's like 5 minutes, just get there. If you're going to have 20 cluster of Pokemon, it's worth it if you think that there's going to be a couple there, because several times, well, it's only happened to me once, but I went to a cluster spawn and I actually got back-to-back shinies, and every single time I go to these cluster spawns, I usually find a shiny there. It's absolutely amazing. And another thing you need to remember is if you know a place that has good cluster spawns during the community day, but otherwise doesn't really have that many Pokemon, that is a thing. Remember those areas from your last community days and go back to wherever you remember you see cluster spawns, because they're going to come back. It just happens during community day, increased spawns. So if you're in an area and you're like, well, there's nothing here, but during community day, it was weird. This one spot and this one spot. Oh yeah, and over there, they had a bunch of Pokemon for some reason. Well, I recommend you go right back to there, because they're going to have them yet again. And the more Pokemon you can tap on, the higher chance you're going to get to find as many shinies as you can. And like we went over, this is going to be one of the most valuable, and not only that, amazing looking Pokemon with a awesome move. Okay, and final tip, folks. We're going to discuss lures. Now, there's been a little issue with this here. Lures that last 3 hours, right? They last the whole duration of the community day. And you can even put one on 2 minutes before the event ends, and I'm pretty sure it's going to last for a while after that. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But let's discuss the issue. And that is going to be putting on lures right before community day starts. That is a big no-no. You don't want to do that. And if you want to just be I'm trying to find a somewhat kind word to describe this, a nuisance to people and put on lures before the event just to mess with them. Don't do that. That's not cool, right? We can see what your name is on the lure. Nobody's stopping you. It's a free world to play. Nobody said you can't do that. But be kind to your community, because what is happening here is, one, they're not going to have the best spawns for that community day, I've been told. And two, it's not going to last the whole duration, and somebody's just going to put another one after you. So if you want to have your name on that lure for the whole duration, and that's what you're there for, is so people can see you and you can get recognition, and you want to be the first, well, sure, there's no problem with that. But at the same time, don't put the lure on before the event starts, because if you do that, it's going to kind of ruin the whole rhythm of the lured up area. So be a good person to your community in the go, and just don't put on a lure right before the event. Make sure you do it right as it starts, okay? Because, yeah, like we just went over, it's not good. Alrighty, trainers, and that's about it for my tips on Beldum Community Day. Now, I know I didn't go over every little thing that you should do, but you all are very smart. If you're watching me, you know what's good already. I got you. So I'm pretty sure you have yourself covered. And if you're new, welcome. And if you don't know everything, well, that's fine. You're going to learn. Make sure you're subscribed, have notifications on, because I cover all kinds of Pokemon Go content. I will be, in fact, maxing out a shiny Metagross, a normal Metagross with Meteor Mash, taking it to the gym. You guys, you know what it is. You know what it is. Cheer. All right, trainers, thank you for watching. I'll be catching you all next time. Take care.